You've seen it everywhere, right? On social media, in the news, these new weight loss drugs are completely changing the game. But what's the real story behind all the hype? What are they? How do they actually work? And what do you really need to know? Well, let's break it all down. Here's our game plan. We're going to look at just how massive this whole thing is, get into the science, talk about the practical choices people are making, and then face the reality of the costs and risks. Finally, we'll peek into the future and see what's coming next. Let's dive in. First up, the billion-dollar shot. And honestly, to really get what's happening, you have to understand the mind-blowing scale of this phenomenon. Yeah, you're seeing that right. $150 billion. That's the forecast for this market in just about a decade. We're not just talking about a popular new prescription. We're talking about a full-blown economic and cultural earthquake. If you want to know how fast this is moving, look at this, a 500% spike in prescriptions in just 5 years. This isn't some slow trend, it's an absolute explosion. The results are real, and they've got everyone talking.
So, the hype is real. But the big question is, what are these drugs actually doing in your body to make this happen? Let's get into the science, and I promise we'll keep it simple. Okay, so it all comes down to something called a GLP-1 agonist. Here's the deal. Your body makes a hormone called GLP-1 after you eat. These drugs are basically a copycat of that hormone, and they do two really cool things. First, they slow down how fast your stomach empties, so you feel fuller longer. Second, they send a little message up to your brain that says, hey, we're all good down here, no need to eat more. It's a powerful 1-2 punch against hunger. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because not all these drugs are created equal. You have Semaglutide, that's the stuff in Ozempic and Wegovy, which just mimics that one hormone, GLP-1. But then you have Tirzepatide, the active ingredient in Mounjaro and Zepbound, which is like a double agent. It mimics GLP-1 times another hormone called GIP, and that dual-action approach seems to amplify the effect, which is why it often leads to even more weight loss in studies. And let's clear up all the brand name confusion right now with this chart. It's actually pretty simple. Ozempic and Wegovy, they're the exact same drug, semaglutide. Ozempic just got its FDA approval for type 2 diabetes first, and Wegovy got approved for weight management. It's the same story with Mounjaro and Zepbound. Both are Tirzepatide, just approved for different things. So same active ingredient, just a different brand name and approved use.
All right, let's get practical. A weekly shot or a daily pill? As these drugs evolve, this is a real choice that more and more people are going to have to make.
So here's the trade-off. The weekly shot is super convenient. You do it once and you're done for the week. Plus, some studies suggest it might be a bit more effective. But, you got to be cool with needles and keep it in the fridge. The daily pill, no needles, which is a huge plus, and it's way easier for travel. But here's the catch. It has a very strict routine. You have to take it on a totally empty stomach, then wait at least 30 minutes before you eat, drink, or even take other pills. That can be a real challenge for a lot of us.
And really, this is what it's all about. As Dr. Melanie J. says here, it's just good to have options. There's no one-size-fits-all solution, so letting patients and doctors choose between a shot or a pill is a really positive step forward.
Okay, let's hit pause on the amazing results for a second and talk about the reality check. Because for all their power, these drugs come with two massive hurdles: the price tag and the potential risks.
Let's just put this number out there and let it sink in. We're talking about $1,000 a month. That's the typical cost if your insurance doesn't cover it. And let's be real, that is the single biggest wall that keeps these drugs out of reach for millions of people.
And then there are the side effects. Most of the common ones are all about your gut. I mean, it makes sense, right? The drug is literally slowing your stomach down. So things like nausea, constipation, and just feeling bloated are super common, especially when you first start. For most people, it gets better, but for some, it can be pretty rough. And in some very rare situations, that slowing down of the stomach can go way too far. It's a condition called gastroparesis, which is basically stomach paralysis. The stomach just stops emptying properly. It is a serious side effect that has led to some pretty scary situations for a few patients.
Beyond that, there's a list of other serious, though again, very rare risks that have been flagged. Things like pancreatitis, bowel obstructions, and even kidney injury. It's just a reminder that these are incredibly powerful medications, and they need to be taken seriously.
Okay, but what if that biggest barrier we talked about, the cost, is actually about to change? Let's look ahead, because a new era of access might be just around the corner. This timeline here is everything. Seriously, things start to get really interesting in 2026. You see some key patents start to expire, which could mean generics are on the way. And maybe even more importantly, the US government is launching a brand new program designed to tackle the price for people on Medicare and Medicaid.
So what is this thing? It's called the balance model. And in a nutshell, it's a government program that will let Medicare and Medicaid negotiate prices directly with the drug companies. This is huge, because historically, Medicare has been banned from covering drugs for weight loss. This model could finally change that, and it would be a total game changer for millions of seniors and low-income Americans.
So when you step back and look at all the pieces, the science, the cost, the future, what does it all mean? What does the future of weight loss actually look like? I think the most important takeaway is this. These drugs are an incredible new tool, a true medical breakthrough. But they're not a magic bullet. Big questions are still out there. What happens if you take them for 20 or 30 years? What happens when you stop? And how do we make sure they're used alongside healthy lifestyle changes? We just don't have all the answers yet.
And that kind of leaves us with this one last really big question to think about. As these powerful tools get cheaper and easier to get, are they going to fundamentally change how we think about diet, exercise, and even health itself? That's a question that we as a society are all going to be answering together over the next decade.